Beth,
Hello.
can you hear us now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, there you go. It was on our end.
Yay.
Yay.
All right.
I'm an idiot.
Yeah, it's true. He is. Okay, we got all the recording we need. We can go home now. I'm just gonna cut that and loop it. We found our soundtrack for the Christmas party.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna put that to a beat.
Are you?
I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, you really could, couldn't you?
He's going to. You wait and see.
This is the AT Banter podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
Oh, look at that conflicting banters.
That's right.
You guys didn't go to rehearsal, did you?
Nope.
It's going to be a feisty day.
My name is Rob Minot, and joining me today, Mr. Ryan Fleury.
Hello.
Mr. Steve Barclay.
Hello there.
And Ryan, we have a very special guest. Would you like to introduce our special guest?
We do have a special guest. How many times can we say special this episode?
Are we making it a special episode?
This week on a very
To be very
special
special.
episode of AT Banter.
Oh, my. Joining us today is a longtime listener of the show, Miss Beth, or AKA Snow Bunny.
That's right. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, great to be here.
Oh, it's about time we've got you on. We've been trying for a long time, so.
Yeah.
Have you really?
Long-time listener? Really? Really?
Yeah, what's your problem?
Yeah. Why,
Wow.
Why don't you have better things to do?
There goes Beth. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, at least you got a real life girl.
Beth has been emailing us from time to time over the past, well, almost the entire length of our podcast run. The earliest message
Just about.
the earliest message I had from you that I could find was back in September of 2017. So thank you for sticking with us so long, and I wanted to get you on.
Oh,
as
you're
a guest
welcome. I
host.
enjoy every podcast. I look forward to them.
Everyone, really? Every single one?
Even we don't enjoy everyone.
Yeah. If we had posted the anniversary show, that number might be a little bit different.
That might be our best show ever.
I don't know. Maybe some people, I guess, could maybe argue that. If you,
Yes.
the people who enjoy watching, car accidents and NASCAR races for the crashes.
That's right. The anniversary show never saw the light of day, and probably never will.
There was tequila.
Oh, well.
Yeah, there was too much tequila.
Ugh. Anyways,
Okay.
we digress. We're digressing. Well, you know what? Why don't we just start? Just give us a little bit of a snapshot of who the heck Beth is. Where are you?
I am in Virginia, and we are getting pretty chilly down here, especially for this time of year. I have a lot of hobbies, including technology, of course, reading fiction and nonfiction, helping out with church music. I'm just into everything, and I'm curious. I love to learn new things and try new things.
Now, what exactly is your vision condition?
I have a vision condition which started when I was, well, I guess it started from birth, but by the time I was a year old, I was totally blind. It's retinopathy of prematurity.
Okay.
And that was the oxygen thing, which I'm sure just about everybody has heard of, that I was given oxygen and it did a number on my retinas. I was such a preemie that they had to do that in order for me to survive. So here I am. And I have been learning about technology from, well, gosh, I started out learning the Perkins Braille and then the typewriter, and then I had the I never had the Braille and Speak. I know a lot of people did, but I had the Braille Lite. I've had HumanWare stuff. I now have the Braille Edge, and I have a PC running System Access. So as you can see, I just got an iPhone recently, that's interesting. I'm enjoying it, but there are some things that drive me crazy. But I've just always been into technology stuff.
So let me ask you this, and I always ask anybody whenever we have somebody who's worked in the industry for a long time, but especially I like asking this question to people who have been using it for a long time, is just how do you feel that things have changed over the past, say, 10 years? Because, our feeling having worked in the industry is just that there's been this sort of this light year jump in the quality of the type of technology that's available since the advent of the smartphone. Is that kind of your impression as well?
Yes, it is. There certainly has been a really substantial leap forward in technology use. And I would also say that it's not just for the blind and visually impaired. You have now, with maybe computers too, but I believe with the iPhone especially, you have the gaze that people who cannot use their hands, they have sight, but they can gaze at the screen and it will do their bidding. And I mean, there's just been low vision stuff, Braille stuff. There has been a lot of change in the past 10 years, and I think most of it has been in the phone field, both Apple and Android. Now we have some of these other phones like the Smart Vision 2, and there's another one whose name I can't think of off the top of my head, but there are smartphones now which are being made specifically for blind users.
Right.
Yeah, Blind Shell was another one.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, the whole, I think wearables is sort of the next frontier in terms of.
What do you see happening with it? I was just listening to a podcast this morning about Google Glass. They were interviewing somebody from Google, and it was talking about the Google Glass, and it's still available, but only for enterprise settings. Right. And of course, we don't know what's going to happen with consumerism, but what do you guys think? Do you think it sure didn't take off when it was first introduced to consumers?
I think it was a little ahead of its time still when they tried to launch it. I think that it has huge potential in terms of being a platform, especially for something that's AT based. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think they're really just trying to figure out what to do.
Well, and I think we're going to see a game change. I think it's next year or 2021 when Apple's supposed to be releasing their AI glasses as well.
So I've heard.
Yeah, and Bose is releasing a new set of their frames glasses next year that are going to have a camera built in as well for those people using Ira. They've got a partnership with Ira.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I think next year or the year after, we're going to see an explosion.
The RNIB Tech Talk podcast, the most recent one that I'm now listening to, was saying that the public is real scared of camera, but if they use the word sensor or something else rather than camera, it might go over better.
Right.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, and that was some of the pushback that the Google Glass got early on was privacy concerns. People really didn't like this idea that somebody could be wearing a pair of the glasses and be taking pictures and you just wouldn't know it.
It's a high-resolution optical sensor.
I like it.
Better known as a camera.
Let's run it. Let's run with it.
That's right. And they're not so much concerned like with me wearing them and my privacy. It's me taking pictures of other people.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, you don't have consent to take pictures of the public.
Sure, right? But there's a lot of ways that you could address that, I guess. But I mean, I just think in general, it was just too far ahead of its time.
Yep.
People weren't ready for wearables. I think that the atmosphere now is much more friendly to the idea of wearables, and we're seeing all kinds of wearables, and everything from virtual reality platforms that are being leveraged for AT purposes. We've got what's the Iris Vision, right, Steve?
Yep.
The Iris Vision uses the Samsung VR.
Yep. The Gear VR platform.
And that's sort of a low vision aid. But you've got the Orcam stuff. There's all kinds of manufacturers out there that are actively trying to push this idea, but I think that we're just, we're not quite there. The tech isn't quite there yet to make something that's going to be lightweight, that's not going to stick out like a sore thumb when you're wearing it, that's going to be comfortable to wear for extended periods of time. I mean, that's the big thing with the using something like the Samsung VR, any VR helmet. You wear it for an hour or so and you're kind of done. Like it's not super comfortable. Your head gets really hot.
And I think, the technology also has to come into the realm of fashion as well, right?
Sure.
We saw a lot of smartwatches come out before they started to get kind of sexy and people started to, use them a little bit more. And I think the same's true of the Google glasses. The Google glasses were sort of, this nerdy construct that you slapped on your face, but, you couldn't wear your own glasses and have the experience. So,
right.
And I think a lot of people, think of how long it took you to pick out your last pair of glasses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the other thing they said on the podcast, that people might be saying, well, gee, what do I do with my glasses now? When do I get to wear those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
probably the solution for that would be also something that you could just attach to an existing pair of glasses.
Yep.
So, but I really do feel like that's where we're going to see the next leap. That, and of course, like stuff like, automated cars. I think that's going to be a real leap forward for people with disabilities, in terms of the potential there for some real freedom of movement. But
I don't remember where I read this, but I read that it will be, and I don't remember how long they said, but in the coming years, we will not use keyboards anymore. We will use our voices for computer use, for phone use. What do you guys think about that? You think that's coming?
Yeah.
I think ultimately it is coming, but you're going to have to break an entire generation of their typing lessons. I don't compose well by voice. I had an accident a number of years back where I ran afoul of a power tool and cut up the fingertips on 2 fingers on my right hand, and I'm right-handed. So I was basically unable to type for a while, and I started using Dragon, and I'm good at using Dragon. I've been training people in how to use Dragon since version 1 of Dragon. And, it's good, high quality voice recognition. And as soon as I could type again, I ditched it because I don't compose that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think I'm kind of the same way. Like if I was to try to compose a letter or an article or something strictly by voice, I think that I'd be stammering a lot. I'd be the way that you think is different when you're sitting looking at a cursor and you're on a keyboard, as opposed to trying to dictate that.
And you know how tedious, dictating can be. Like, can you imagine trying to navigate a spreadsheet using your voice and entering formulas and jumping from cell to cell? Like the natural language process isn't there yet, to support all these applications.
Yeah, so that's a tricky one. I mean, I think that it's coming in terms of an option for different things. I mean, certainly, I think any of us would love, well, I mean, I watched Ryan compose an email through voice, just earlier on, and I mocked him for it, but it's already there to a degree, and it would be nice, when you're texting and stuff. I mean, all that, it does come in handy, and it would be great if they could refine that technology to be like close to, say, 99% accuracy.
Yeah, like Apple, would you please get Siri to do much better at that?
Yes, yeah, Apple.
Oh my goodness,
it's bad.
I speak clearly, but Siri she sometimes, just more than sometimes, she doesn't understand me.
Yep. Yeah, it's a real problem.
It's just a pain.
And in a way, it's kind of nice to see Apple drop at least one ball occasionally, because they're so on the money with everything else. But yeah, that's something that they really need to be.
They need to do a lot with Siri.
But they can only save the world one thing at a time, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
It does open up a whole new window for politicians, though, in the future. It's like, no, that was a voice recognition error.
Yeah. That's right.
Now, of course, when you're doing voice recognition, you can. I've never done it with Dragon, but I believe you can say scratch that. It's not as if it's written in stone and you can't correct it with your voice. It's just probably slow.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, it's just, again, it's one of these technologies that I feel that we're close, but it's just, it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, look at Brian Hartgen and the JAWS. I've never used it, but the JAWS, what's it called? JSay.
JSay, yeah.
And honestly, that's been around for quite a while, has it not?
Oh, yes, for years.
Yep.
Now, has that, Ryan, have you played with that recently? Has it really evolved in terms of it's much?
I know they've been updating it.
Yeah, absolutely. It supports a lot of applications, a lot of the Microsoft applications, as well as some third-party stuff that, Brian has created as well, support for.
So just for people who maybe aren't aware of it, just what does it do?
JSay is a piece of software that bridges JAWS and Dragon Naturally Speaking together so that you can actually, as a blind person, take full control of your computer and applications and use your voice to do everything. From composing email to creating documents to navigating the web, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Now, keeping that in mind, it sounds great, but there's a lot of commands to learn.
There is.
Yeah, a lot of verbal commands to learn to control and navigate, and it's got a very steep learning curve. So we generally only use it for people who have a physical disability in addition to a visual impairment.
Right.
Not only that, but I suppose it could get, of course, you'd be grateful for it if it's the only way you could do it, but you could get tired of hearing yourself say down one, down one, down one for going down a line, whatever the command is.
Yeah, there are shortcuts as well that you can
maybe
go
you
in
can.
and
Yeah, I was going to say maybe you can say skip 5 lines, but if you're totally blind, how do you know how many you want to skip? So
yeah, no, there's definitely a learning process to proficient voice dictation.
But I mean, I would think that certainly as the idea of the smart home gets, more ubiquitous, I think that. What'd I win?
Rob used the surprise word. It's ubiquitous. That's ubiquitous.
Okay.
That's right. Third caller in wins a pair of tickets to Hootie and the Blowfish. So the more that we see that the idea of the smart home being pushed, I think that the whole voice command thing, I think, is going to come along with it. Yes, that would be the
place it would really shine.
That's right. Because I mean that's been a sci-fi component for a long time. This idea of being able to control your computer completely with your voice, or being able to.
I'm sorry, Dave, I cannot do that.
That's right. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people in Starfleet uniforms right now, drooling at the idea that they could have that.
Just imagining Ryan dealing with Hal. Okay, Hal, format C:\/ //U. Okay, dude.
But I wonder if Hal was the forerunner in thought of everything we have today. Do you suppose that that's possible?
No, not really. Because there was
or Geordi, whatever.
Yeah, there was tons of sci-fi out before that had voice-controlled computers and such on it. So I wouldn't say so. I think it's the first one that made it to mainstream media, maybe. But
I don't think that would be very popular with the public, given what's been going on with the A-Lady and maybe others as well, with the listening in on things that people didn't want listened into.
Every time we have these privacy discussions, I think back to 5 years ago, then 10 years ago, when people made a stink about different privacy concerns, and just eventually, just people learned to just Like if you think...
Well, all you got to do is mute your A-lady or whoever it is you got. Unplug her if you want to.
Yeah, but that's inconvenient.
and honestly, like people, I think eventually people just won't do it. They'll just be like, you know what, whatever. Like people, I think if the last 10 years has shown us anything, it's that people will give up their privacy in order for convenience.
Yep.
And eventually they will become more comfortable with something that they vowed, years ago that they would never do.
I have Amazon Echoes in almost every room in this house, and I've never once muted them. They're always on and listening.
Yeah.
And it's just so I can turn lights on and off, or I can listen to music or whatever, right?
Yeah, but now Putin knows everything you're doing.
Oh, well. I like poutine, too.
So I don't know. Like, I think that eventually, like, you come up with something shiny enough, people will forego their privacy in order to, indulge in whatever piece of technology we're talking about. So, I do think that in that sense, going back to the Google Glass discussion, I do think that people would be a lot more comfortable with this idea of this camera mounted on the glasses than they were. I mean, I think that there would still be people who would make a stink about it, but I don't think it would have the momentum that it did, whatever it was 5 years ago. So people are ready. People want the next thing. And I think wearables is where it's going to be.
It'll be interesting to actually see what the biggest piece of tech sold after this Black Friday weekend, Cyber Monday would be.
Oh, yeah.
See if it's smart home devices or, just kind of where that trend is.
Yeah, well, I think that Google was very smart. So was Amazon, early on. I mean, look at how much they just wanted to get these devices into people's hands. Mm-hmm. You look at, them teaming up with Spotify and giving away minis.
Yep.
Dropping the price down dramatically over the past, few holiday seasons. I mean, I remember there was that brief point of time where they were down to like $30
Yep.
you could get a home for, and they're regularly $80 or something. So,
wow.
And that was just a push to get them out there because they just wanted them everywhere. So, and I think at this point they probably are. I mean, yeah, I go to people's places and most everybody I know has a smart speaker of some sort.
What do you guys think today is the best assistant? The G lady, the A lady, the S lady, what? Which one?
I have a Google Home Mini, and I have, like I said, Echoes throughout the house. And I think it really depends on the task that you want to perform. My smart lights in the living room, Spotify, I find work for me better on the Amazon Echoes than they do on the Google Home Mini. Yet if I'm looking for maybe some directions or some more specific information, I find Google, is vastly better just because of Google's huge database of information.
Is she better at understanding you also?
I don't really.
G-lady?
Yeah, no, I think they're about the same for me. I don't really have any issues with that.
Yeah, see, I have an issue with mine because I have real problem saying the word Google. I think I need to go to speech therapy or something. I remember the first episode, one of the first episodes we actually recorded. We were doing a story on the Google Glass. And I have a hell of a time getting through that. Trying to read this. Yeah, really. I like honestly, like I'm like that old Polish lady. I feel like sometimes, and sometimes it does not recognize me. I have to say it like 3 times. So I don't know. I may have to see like some sort of a speech OT or something.
Well, that's kind of the nice thing with the Amazon Echoes is you can change the trigger word, right, from A lady to Echo or.
But you can't do that with the rest of them.
That would be nice. Yeah. Actually, I would love that.
So I would change mine to wiretap.
That's not available.
Hey, I love it.
Well, okay. Let's segue this conversation into one of these stories that I had pulled up for this episode, and let's talk a little bit about this Turkish startup. that developed this smart cane called the WeWalk.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. You know, I remember seeing these guys, I'm going to have to say 2 years. Like, this is not something that they just brought out. They've been working on this for a while. And I want to get your guys' take on this. So, Ryan, maybe you sort of watched Sam from the Blind Life's critique of it yesterday. So why don't you give us a bit of a rundown on what it is and what it does?
Well, the WeWalk is a collapsible or foldable smart cane that has haptics built into the handle. It has a touchpad so that you can control the functionality of the device instead of pairing it through your phone, so you can use it independently. It has an LED light on it as well, so if you're walking at night, if you might have some low vision, the light might help and people can actually see you coming. But the power, I think, really comes when you connect it to your phone. You have the ability to use the Google mapping information to give you directions, look around, see what places are around, and you can navigate to those places. What else it has? It has a find your cane, a find your phone. So if you lost your phone, you can actually trigger that from your cane and your phone will start ringing, and vice versa. It sounds like the haptics are quite strong, and there's a speaker actually built into the cane itself. So it actually has its own speech feedback, it sounds like. And it's a little choppy, a little distorted, but, again, it's still clear enough to understand what it is you're swiping through and what your options are. But it sounds,
My first caveat with this is why, maybe it doesn't have to be paired with a phone, but if we're going to have everything with the phone as a hub, what happens if something happens to your phone, or if you didn't charge it, or I don't know, a million things could happen to your phone. I wish they would start like the A-Lady. I wish you didn't have to engage with your computer or your phone. Let's have some more standalone stuff.
Well, that's the thing with the cane, too, is it does have a charging port, uses micro USB. So, yeah, if your cane isn't charged, your haptics aren't going to work, right?
You've got a stick.
I meant if your phone isn't charged. Can the or if something happens to your phone, you have to get it repaired.
Can you use the cane without the phone?
You can, yeah. Yeah.
Well, but I guess with limited functionality.
With limited functionality,
because
yes.
I'm assuming that Google Maps and all that functionality isn't built into the cane. It's using the phone as like Beth said, the hub.
Right.
And then.
It sounds to me like a Sunu band, only it's a cane.
It is.
Pretty much. Yeah. I think that's exactly what it is. So there's a couple things that spring to my mind. So first would be how heavy it must be.
It is a pretty thick, bulky cane. If you hold your cane kind of with a pencil grip, which I guess is your index finger kind of pointing down the cane, he could potentially see some people having wrist issues. Because it is, like I said, it is thick.
Well, the nice thing, a lot of times, a nice thing about the cane, mobility-wise, is that it folds up really nicely. It can go in your pocket. Like that's an important component of. Yeah,
this folds up, but this does fold up and comes with a carrying bag. A lot of the canes that we use now, you can actually take the elastic strap and wrap it around the end of the cane to hold your cane together. This one has an elastic strap as well, but it didn't really sound like in the review you could actually do that unless maybe you put a knot in the end of the loop and then struck it over your cane. But that's why they included the carrying bag, so you actually had a place to hold your cane and contain your cane.
I see. Here's
another thing. I've been ranting to myself about this for years. Now, finally, I have people to listen to me. What happens if we make over the whole mobility tool world, and instead of having a cane, we had a smart jacket?
Well, just so you know, and I don't know if, Rob, you listened to the GTT Toronto meeting I recorded.
No.
There is a student who has developed a pair of haptic sleeves. It's not necessarily a jacket, but they're sleeves with sensors on them. And they're looking at releasing this product, I think, May or June of next year.
Really?
But will it do steps? See, I'm not sure. That's the main thing that I would like something so you don't have to hold. The cane is not holy grail. The cane is a tool.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's a tool for us to use if we so choose to get around with. Why can't we, in this technological age, why can't we have something else, hands-free, that we wear? Talk about wearables that would do everything the cane does.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why there hasn't, I haven't heard of very much being done in that sphere. Is it because O&M teachers are, would be against it? Is it because blind people would be against it? Is it, what's the deal?
Honestly, I think it's partly the haptic technology. I feel like haptics is another arena that hasn't quite been baked yet. They're still trying to figure that space out, because all the haptics products, and haptics and these buzz things with using infrared, not super new. Like, I seem to recall a product that we were selling for a while.
Even before that.
Ago.
When I started in the industry, I was fixing Moet sensors, which are essentially the same thing.
Yeah, because you would think, like, it's not like infrared or haptics is something brand new. This is a technology that's years and years old. It's just, so I think that they just need to find the right product that just hits that sweet spot and that serves the right purpose.
They have it. They already have it.
What is it?
IRA.
Well, no.
If you have an IRA subscription,
well, yeah,
you've got IRA.
I agree with you. IRA is terrific, but I'm talking about a physical tool to replace the cane.
Yeah, and I don't know, I don't travel independently, but when I am using
I don't either right now, but I keep thinking about this. Suppose you've got, you're holding on to a stroller and you got a bag of groceries in the other hand. Okay. Are you going to grow a third hand to hold cane with? Yeah. There are so many times when it's not feasible to carry a cane or a dog.
And I think
use a dog.
I think we'll see some AI taking over some of that. And again, something's still going to have to be camera mounted, or have a camera mounted on something.
Or a sensor.
Or something. But you're going to have, I would think, voice feedback for some people, haptic feedback for maybe the deafblind. There's, I think, a lot of sensor information that's going to have to be gathered so that you have a good picture of what's in front of you, around you.
Do you guys think that IRA would one day take over things like this? No. I did tell them that please tell me where there are steps, because I cannot feel, believe it or not, I have a very long cane, but I cannot feel a curb. Can't feel it. I can feel a flight of stairs, but I can't feel a curb. So they said they would do that, but I'm wondering I just wonder if this could be something that they would consider doing as part of their, not as on request, but if it became known that people want this.
I think that's what's going to happen with IRA is the human component of this is going to be eventually removed, because I think what's going to happen is that the machine learning and the object recognition is going to get to a place where it's just going to be an algorithm or a program that's just going to be able to take that image and identify the objects, and it'll just be an AI. But so it'll be an IRA type situation. But it's just going to be an AI component as opposed and a self-standing component, as opposed to you have to phone in for an agent. Now, we could be years away from that.
I think you need the real time.
I think we are.
We may be a ways away from that, but that's the direction that it's going. So, and I think that even IRA recognizes that to a degree, because they are working on, and they have like an AI component to the glasses, do they not, Ryan?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've got their assistant called Chloe.
Yeah. So, that's even something that they're working on. So I think that, deep down they recognize that eventually it may get to that place. But to get to a point where an AI is as efficient and quick and accurate as a human agent, we could be talking a while. Mm-hmm. But we'll get there, I think.
That's an interesting thought.
So
we just need robots.
Future's so bright, we got to wear shades.
I feel your pain. I think that part of the problem is that, when somebody is hip deep in trying to research and develop a haptic product to replace a cane, they must just come up against this wall of, you know what, we're spending all this money and, a stick still is doing the better job. How are we going to compete with a stick? Because at the end of the day, it's like that human component. It's just that nothing gives you as accurate and, efficient, that tactile information as quickly as a cane. And it's really hard to compete haptically for that. And even the haptic products that are on the market today, they all say that their best use is to be used in conjunction with a cane.
Right.
Yes.
None of them, claim to be replacements for the cane. So again, I think that we're a ways away from that. But I mean, there's all kinds of, if you think about the infrared sensors and stuff, if they could emulate that cane just using infrared waves with a sensor that maybe you wore on your wrist or something that was like a really fine-tuned cone of waves that just basically you're just emulating a long stick, that you're just able to do that. Maybe that could be something. I don't know. I mean, I really feel like they're still figuring this out. They're still figuring out how to best use haptics together with infrared to try to come up with the best product.
What about ultrasound? Has that decreased in I thought have you guys tried the buzz clip? I think that's ultrasound, isn't it?
Yeah, ultrasonic frequencies, the buzz clip, the Sunu.
The Sunu.
Have you tried any of those?
And this is where I get confused too, because there's all these different terms and some of them are interchangeable.
Yeah, it's not infrared.
Because you've got infrared, you've got ultrasonic, you've got sonar.
That's ultrasonic.
Yeah. See, but I just mean you have all these different terms that some are the same thing and some are different, and I think that there's some real confusion, especially with the consumer base for that, which is some of the marketing challenges that I think that these things come with. But yeah, the buzz clip is infrared.
No. Ultrasonic.
Ultrasonic. I'm sorry.
I think the buzz clip is. I'm not sure if there are any that are infrared anymore. Are there?
I don't think so. I think everybody ran into the problem with infrared, that it was capable of shining through glass, and that can be really painful.
Right.
But have you guys tried any of these things?
Yeah, we tried the buzz clip.
Yeah, we're the Canadian distributor for the Sunu band as well.
So I mean, the buzz clip, didn't the buzz clip run into issues in the rain?
No.
Or was that a rumor?
That's ultrasonic in general. If it's raining really hard, your accuracy is.
Well, on the buzz clip too, it's a small little clip that, you typically wear on the front of your jacket or your shirt or whatever to kind of get an idea of what obstacles might be in front of you. But, even they recommend one on your left arm, one on your right arm, and one on your chest. So you actually get a virtual field in front of you. Because if it's on your left, it's only detecting what's on your left.
See, and again, then you might as well just go back to Beth's idea about just developing a haptic jacket.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If that's really what they're suggesting.
Yep.
So again, like all this stuff is all I feel like neat and an interesting add-on, especially if you're a heavy traveler. But in terms of an all-encompassing solution for mobility using haptics, it's not here yet.
What about the Sunu? Do you have to wear two Sunus to get a good field?
Yes, you do. Everybody should be buying two Sunus instead of one.
www.canistech.com. No,
one of the nice things about Sunu is because it's on your wrist, you can just angle your wrist. You can just point it in the direction that you want.
True.
Whereas buzz clip, if you're wearing it, you're essentially turning your whole body to use it. Now they've since come out with like a handheld rig, and I think they've got a.
You can attach one to your cane
right now. So.
Oh, buzz clip does?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. Yeah.
Remember the laser cane that was out in the 80s, was it?
No, but it sounds cool as hell.
Yep.
I want one.
Yeah, I vaguely recall.
I forgot the name of the company. It was in Pennsylvania. And I think they're out of business. The whole company's out of business now. But I got to see one at a local, pretty local rehab place. And it was cool. The only thing is, again, the laser would give you false positives. It would tell you there was something there, and there really wasn't.
Yeah, and as soon as you get one of those, then you're just going to go back to the stick.
It just didn't. I mean, I was fascinated. I didn't get one. I tried one there for a while, and it just it wasn't there. Just wasn't there.
See, at the end of the day, I guess the question that you have to ask yourself is, what advantage does this product have over the cane? And, for something like, say, a laser cane, what can it really do that the stick can't? Like, what's the big advantage of it? If it's, at the end of the day, it's still transmitting some sort of information to you about what's in front of you. If it really is doing the exact same thing as a cane, why wouldn't you just get a cane?
Well, it was supposed to, and maybe it really did, I don't know, but it was supposed to do steps, drop-offs, overhead. In front, it had three little, it was like a pad that you put your finger on, and you got a vibration in one part of your finger for upper body, the other part for mid-body, and the other part for low.
I see.
It was a neat idea.
Yeah, I think the big problem with the laser cane was that when people were walking down the street with it, they'd get randomly attacked by Jedis, wasn't it?
Yeah, that must have been it.
Yeah, that's probably it.
No, my mind went there. Yeah. I just envisioned this cane that looked like a lightsaber that you could just... That'd be pretty cool. Well, I don't know. This WeWalk, see, I feel like the WeWalk has a bit of an advantage here, much like the Sunu Band. The Sunu Band, the big thing with the Sunu Band, and we're not going into a sales pitch, but buy some. www.camerastuff.com. But they're still developing that product. They're building functionality into it as we speak. It's an evolving product. Whereas something like the Buzz Clip, it's very, it's very a self-contained, one-purpose unit. And the Sunu, has these things like they've put map functionality into it just recently. They've put in like a place finder that allows you to sort of be able to, it uses ties into Google Maps through your phone and is able to sort of tell you what kind of venues are around you, and it gives you the range of where they are, and it'll kind of be able to direct you. It has a compass now built into it so that you can get your bearings and stuff. So there's all these functionality that they're continuing to build into it because it does tie into your smartphone. I guess they're able to do that. And the WeWalk, I feel like, is similar. It sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think that's a really important feature for some of these products, is that they're able to evolve without having to produce, an entirely new generation of devices.
And that said, the Sunu Band won't find stairs.
No.
Still need the stick.
Yep.
Or the dog.
Yep.
Provided you get consent from the dog.
And what about a robot? Seriously, are they working on some kind of a...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I hope so.
They are. Certainly robotics is a real big field. Again... you have to go back to the question, are you ever going to be able to produce something that's as efficient as an actual dog without, it costing $6 million? And, probably in the next 20 years, the answer is going to be no. But they're working on it. I mean, certainly robotic, because, you have to build in, the robotics component. And then you have to build into the AI component. And I think that there's going to be some real pushback once robotics gets to the point where they're actually able to produce something that can move like an animal or a human. I think people are going to be freaked out by that.
Japan is working on, Japanese researchers are working on a robotic guide dog.
Yep.
I remember hearing about that.
Yep.
It's going to be cute looking.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I see articles every now and then about stuff they're doing down at UC Berkeley. There's all kinds of robotics projects going on down there.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, I think, is probably military driven. You know, it's probably military budget that's going into developing things like this for, you know, battlefield and reconnaissance purposes. But, you know, eventually that spills down into mainstream consumer electronics the same way, you know, the eye gaze stuff did. You know, it was originally developed for fighter pilots and helicopter pilots, and now it's being built into phones. You know?
Yeah.
And what about going at it from the other direction? I don't remember the name of this, and it's been a few years since I've looked at it because it was just starting out. There's a place in Chicago which has an implant and for your brain, I believe. And this implant, it doesn't matter if you have prosthetic eyes, real eyes, whatever, it will send signals to your visual cortex. And people have been able, I suppose I can't read a novel, but they've been able to read, and I don't know what else they've been able to do with this, but what do you guys think about things like that? Have you been seeing anything along those lines?
Was that the brain port?
No. I think that's still around too, but no, it was in Chicago. And as I say, right now I don't remember what it is. I can send it to you guys later, but
yeah, I've seen it. I as I recall, the problem with it is that the resolution on it is really low. You only get, you know, a few pixels of information essentially, but over time that's getting better and better, and
right.
You know, it will at some point, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an actual artificial eye, but it's a long way from that yet.
Yeah.
What about mobility with that? Would that be something so that you could see? It might be artificial vision, but you could see where the obstacles were and where the steps were, at least to some degree?
I think back to, you know, my friend Mike May. He got a retinal transplant years ago. He'd been blinded in a chemical explosion.
Yeah, that's right.
When he was a kid. And I talked to him afterwards because I ran into him at a conference, and he still had his guide dog. And I said, you know, do you find you rely on your guide dog less? He says, no, I rely on it even more because I don't know how to interpret a lot of the information that I'm getting. I don't know how to analyze it. So, you know, I might be walking down the street tripping out on this yellow thing and not recognize that it's a school bus headed for me.
Jeez.
So there's more to it than just being able to have that deliverable of an interface to the visual cortex. Mm-hmm. There's also the whole relearning or
what it's like to see,
beginning to learn what it's like to see.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, they're all doing all kinds of fascinating things with the brain. You know, there's
the ultimate computer.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing those stories where they're able to, you know, sort of tap into somebody's motor cortex, and somebody who's, say, you know, a quadriplegic, and using that, they're able to, say, use it as a computer interface, and able to move, say, a mouse cursor around a screen just using that motor cortex of your brain. So there's all kinds of neat stuff. I mean, the downside of it is it's so far away from any sort of practical use, because they literally have to like drill into somebody's head and, you know, put a bunch of wires and interfaces and stuff onto the brain itself. So, but I mean, the fact that you can do it, that's the doorway, right? And it's just a matter of time and energy put into developing the technology to figure out how to actually make it practical. So who knows, you know, the next 20 years, who knows what's going to come out.
And I'm wondering too, if this will be slowed down by things like the eSight glasses, which can help so many people who are not as visually impaired. And maybe the same holds true for people who use wheelchairs or walkers or whatever. I'm wondering if there are fewer people with the more serious physical impairments and visual impairments, and I'm wondering if that will slow down that particular research field. Whereas, as I say, you can put e-sight glasses on someone, and wow.
Yeah. I'm constantly, that's why that's why we love the podcast and we love talking about it and doing research for it, because, there's no end to stuff that people are working on. We've seen everything from haptic shoes to...
Oh, Leckle, or however you pronounce it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that people are trying. And I mean, that's the really exciting part about AT right now, is the fact that it is getting more traction. More and more people are talking about it, even in the mainstream. And
yeah, Leckle's a mainstream. You can get it on Amazon.
Sure. And I mean, there's a lot of people that are just doing homebrew experimentation, and like just a lot of entrepreneurs that are just like trying some new ideas in this AT space. Whereas, 20 years ago, it was all just, you had sort of the big AT manufacturers, and you didn't really see a lot of AT startups. And now we're seeing them a lot more. Would you agree with that, Steve?
This industry goes through fits and starts like that. You'll have very little going on. Everything will get bought up by big companies, and then stuff starts sprouting all over the place. And you get another round of innovation. I've seen it happen 2-3 times in the time that I've been in the industry. But
window eyes. That was one.
Well, yeah. I mean, that whole rush when Windows came out to try and have a functional screen reader, I mean, there were a ton of guys working on that. Lots of companies working on that.
Yeah, and then window eyes has gone bye-bye.
Yeah. But I mean, I worked with Baum on screen power. We worked.
Oh, I used Screen Power. I love that thing.
Yeah, we of course were distributors of JAWS. What was
IBM had Screen Power.
Screen Reader 2 for OS2 from IBM.
Window Bridge, I think, was another one.
Yeah, Window Bridge from Dave Kostician. What was the one Albert did in North Van? I've lost the name of it now. We were the earlier distributor for that. Can't remember. Windows something. Anyways, but...
and JAWS pretty much just killed them all?
JAWS was one of the more viable early contenders, but where they really won was on their marketing. They already had an established DOS product. They had a good dealer channel. Their dealer channel got their Windows product out early. They did a good job of making it functional in the early going. And it grabbed a large piece of market share as a result.
Yeah, and don't forget I don't know about Canada, but the U.S. government is a big purchaser of JAWS. At least it was.
Yeah. So, again, I think that all these companies are always vying for that, market dominance in whatever particular AT solution that they're providing.
There can be only one.
It seems like it, right? Like, I don't know, other than JAWS, can you point to any other sort of...
Well, and, I'm sure you could talk to just about anybody in the blindness community anyway, and they would tell you that JAWS is great for a lot of things, but, NVDA does ABC better, or, Window Eyes used to do this better, or System Access did this better.
You know what this really startled me when I found this out. I knew that different screen readers handled whatever website you were on, there was a possibility that different screen readers would handle it differently. What I didn't know until comparatively recently was that sighted users come up against the same thing. Different browsers will handle a single website possibly differently.
Right.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have multiple tools in our toolbox, and we need to. in the days that we're living in right now. I used both JAWS and NVDA, and I have 5 web browsers on my computer. I use Chrome most of the time, but there's some sites Firefox renders the page better, So there isn't just one solution for everything anymore.
Man, have we strayed off topic.
What was our topic? Did we have a topic?
We're talking AT.
We were talking about a smart cane.
Oh, the smart cane.
Yeah. Why don't we head on to another news article? Because there's one I really want to get to.
Oh, okay. Well, which one is that?
It's the grabbing one.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
One of my pet peeves.
Oh boy.
The hashtag "Just Ask, Don't Grab," all started by Amy Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. We talked to Amy Kavanaugh, who started that whole campaign. And what was interesting about this news article is actually local to us. There's a local disability advocate who's in a wheelchair. Her name's Bronwyn Berg. And yes, she actually got so tired of people grabbing the handles of her wheelchair and pushing her around that she installed spikes on the handle of the wheelchair in order to discourage people from grabbing them. And the spikes, again, they're not. It's not like they're
no, they're not going to cut your hand off, but they look like they might, I guess.
It's more they're more like they look like those punk rockers used to wear those like dog collars with like a bunch of spikes on them. They more look like that. They're dull. They wouldn't actually injure anybody.
Oh yeah, no, they wouldn't. They wouldn't cut you, but it makes you think twice. Absolutely.
She talks about the Twitter campaign that Dr. Amy Kavanaugh started out in the UK. So it's nice to see that is building steam, and we're hearing more and more stories of people actually educating other people. I think that's at the core of this. That's what the campaign needs to be about, is educating the public in terms of just how to react. And that's where the problem is. I don't think there aren't people that whose motivations are nefarious or anything.
Now, something that I wanted to relate from my experience, I live in a senior facility, and when I'm walking around the facility, unless I'm concentrating on something real hard, or I'm talking to, if I'm with a companion, of course, but if I'm by myself and I'm just kind of tooling around, if I hear someone, I will say hello, and then we'll strike up a conversation. And that way it just eases everybody into a kind of a relationship, as short as it might be. And then I might say, gosh, do you know where the garbage can is? Or I can't seem to find the door. Where? And that really does help the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, and it's, again, I think the magic of this campaign is its simplicity. It's just literally like, hey, if you see somebody that you think might need a hand with something, ask them. Like, just go up, start a conversation to say, are you okay? Do you need help?
Yes, but I think the person with a and I don't know this lady, I'm just talking generally, the person with a disability should start the conversation, even if it's, hi. That's enough to, okay, this is a real person. I mean, this person can talk and has a sense of humor, and they're kind of nice. So I think I'll say hi back.
Yeah, I think the campaign was started because of she was having a real big issue with literally just people like not even like.
Oh, I know. No, I wasn't talking about her specifically. I was generalizing.
I see. Okay.
It's hard to generalize like that, though, because there's a lot of people who are in chairs that can't talk. And, they're also victims of this as well. When somebody grabs them and starts wheeling them somewhere, they might not even be able to object.
Yeah, see, that's really scary. That would be really terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, even more so than I think and I'm sure that, as somebody who's visually impaired, they're waiting for the train or something, and somebody just grabs them by the arm and starts leading them somewhere where they think they need to be going or something. that would be scary enough, but I could really understand being in a wheelchair and like just having somebody grab your chair and just
grab the chair,
pushing you. That would be really, really terrifying.
Well, that's the story that Bronwyn relates in this article is some guy grabbing her chair and just walking, and she talks to him and he doesn't say anything. She starts yelling and people just look at their phones.
Ignore her,
and it wasn't until she really started screaming her head off that people chased him off. But there's no telling what that guy was doing, where he was taking her to. So that's
and I don't know if this is true. I've always heard, and I take it with quite a few grains of salt, that people with disabilities are more subject to being crime victims. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can have there been studies that really prove that?
I don't know of any studies, but it's certainly intuitively I would think that that's probably
you're definitely more vulnerable.
But even outside of that, I think that part of the power of this campaign is also a little bit of empowering people and making them feel like, look, we are here, we're sharing this space, and we get to dictate what we are comfortable with and what we are not comfortable with. And this is, I think, an attitude that is new in the last, say, 5 years, like advocacy and the idea of even the concept of ableism is a very new conversation that I think is very important, because people with disabilities are people too, and they have their opinions and they have rights, and they have the right to be treated the way that they want to be treated, as opposed to able-bodied people just feeling like they can dictate what they can and can't do.
Isn't it strange, though, that we're having so much of a problem with the wheelchair situation? Because for many years now, we've had curb cuts. Everybody who's sighted sees and uses curb cuts. And I would have thought that would have at least brought enough of an education. Oh, that person's in a wheelchair. Okay. I'm very surprised that people who use wheelchairs are having this much of a problem now.
I'd be willing to bet 75% of the population don't even know why those curb cuts are there.
Yep.
So just to circle back on what we were talking about before here, I did a quick Google, and there's a World Health Organization report on disabilities and rehabilitation titled Violence Against Adults and Children with Disabilities. And it says both children and adults with disabilities are at much higher risk of violence than their non-disabled peers, according to 2 systemic reviews recently published in The Lancet. The reviews were carried out by Liverpool John Moores University Centre for Public Health, a WHO collaborating centre for violence prevention, and WHO's Department of Violence and Injury Prevention and Disability. These are the first studies to confirm the magnitude of the problem, and they provide the strongest available evidence on violence against children and adults with disabilities. They also highlight the lack of data on this topic from low and middle income countries. The review on the prevalence and risk of violence against children with disabilities, published in July 2012, found that overall, children with disabilities are almost 4 times more likely to experience violence than non-disabled children.
Whoa.
The review indicated that children with disabilities are 3.7 times more likely than non-disabled children to be victims of any sort of violence, 3.6 times more likely to be victims of physical violence, 2.9 times more likely to be victims of sexual violence. Children with mental or intellectual impairments appear to be among the most vulnerable, with 4.6 times the risk of sexual violence than their non-disabled peers. So, yep, it's an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, clearly. Wow, 4 times.
Yeah.
Which circles back to the wearables. What's going to happen when we have a lot of people with disabilities with wearables? Are they going to be snatched?
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's a really valid point. It's a really valid point. You're wearing a $2,000 pair of Google glasses. Somebody could, just snatch them right off your head and run away.
Well,
and even today with iPhones, I don't carry mine with me a lot, but if I did, outside of my retirement community here, I've heard of people who have had their phones just blind or sighted.
Yep.
Oh, Ryan's had that happen to him.
Yeah, I had one phone go missing.
Yeah, somebody
Go
asked
missing?
him. Yeah, somebody asked him to borrow his phone, and
Walked
then
away.
took off with his phone.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh man, I didn't know that.
Wow.
Yeah, years ago.
I wonder what they'd do if he was using voiceover.
And that was my Nokia Symbian phone, wasn't it? I think it was my Nokia Symbian
Ah,
that
well,
talks on it or something.
Oh, it was
Jokes on-
yours. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was mine. Yeah,
Jokes on them then.
yeah exactly.
Yeah,
The folks
enjoy your
started talking to
Nokia.
them. And
I can't see the screen, and this voice is talking to me.
yeah.
I don't know. Anything to wrap up? Any thoughts, Ryan?
Interesting times we live in, and it'll be, if we think it's interesting now, I think in 5 years we'll be looking back at this and saying, "Oh my goodness, you mean we did that back then?"
Yeah, I mean, like honestly, we're all old enough. Like I remember like these weird seminal moments in technology history. Like I remember a time before, even PCs were ubiquitous.
Oh, me too. We did everything with our phones, our simple landline phones,
But
like bank bill paying.
But I remember that space of like 3 to 5 years where all of a sudden, like just everybody started to get computers into the home, and I remember my first home PC, and so that moment of like you just feel like you're being left forward, and then not long after that it was okay. Well, there's this cool thing called the internet that you can go on, that you can dial up into, and yeah, right.
Yeah.
But
I remember that too.
It's these moments that are like game changers, where you're like, holy crap! Like,
Wait, what? You mean porn is free now?
yeah, wait, what happened? Yeah, like there's all these moments, and then
Then music became free,
Yep.
yeah, well, that was
and then movies became free, and then the government went, "Hold on."
It wasn't the government; it was Metallica. No, but then everything was sort of on a level playing field for a while, and then boom, we had the smartphones, and that was the next game-changing technology that really completely.
Well, computer.
Wait, you mean porn is free and portable?
So here we are. I mean, we're just waiting for the next one, and whether that's going to be wearables, whether that's going to be VR. Well, I mean, I guess which is technically a wearable, but there are different technologies that I think that are vying for that space to be the next big thing, and I think that it's just a bit of a waiting game to see which one.
I'm leaning towards VR, and the reason I say that is because, as best I can tell, porn drives all technology. So.
Well, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. We're being a little bit tongue in cheek, but it's kind of true. But yeah, we'll see. I think that the big problem with VR right now is just the bulkiness of it. I mean, there's the new VR set from Oculus, the Quest, that doesn't. It's a self-contained unit. It doesn't. You don't have wires. You're not hooked into a computer or anything. But it runs on mobile technology. But the downside is that the quality isn't quite the same as if you were hooked into like something like the Rift, I think. No, yeah, whatever.
The Oculus Rift, yeah.
Yeah. So.
And you can only miniaturize so much.
Yeah, I guess that's the issue, right? Like it's the screens, it's the actual.
And the heat.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing. That's what's I feel like what's really holding that space back. It's the fact that you can only wear those things for about an hour, and then you're kind of.
Well, not only that, but I mean, think about all the problems with the smartphone batteries.
Yep. Battery life is a problem too.
Exploding or getting too hot when they're charging or when they're being heavily used.
See, here's what they need to do. They need to make that a feature, not a bug, about the exploding phones, because they just need to build a self-destruct into your phone. So if someone steals your phone, you can just press a button and just...
blows their fingers off.
Yeah, like the old Hawaii 5-0. Remember that theme? For the very old, remember the very old Hawaii Five-0 show? They had something about, or was that the show I'm thinking of?
No, Mission Impossible.
Something about self-destructing?
Mission Impossible, you're thinking of.
Mission Impossible, that's it.
Right. That's right. This phone will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
And that'll be the sound clip for this episode of AT Banter.
This episode will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Well, speaking of self-destructing, that was a good episode.
Yeah,
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you guys for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Ryan.
Rob.
Where can people find us?
In British Columbia, Canada.
Oh, Ryan.
You're just showing it up once in a while.
You're just showing off for the
mixing it up once in a while.
Hey,
all right,
Ryan.
What?
Now
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
Where can people find us?
Oh, right here in your guitar dungeon for sure.
We love.
They can also
Rob under the bus.
They can also find us by email at cowbell@atbanter.com.
They can also find us online at atbanter.com.
I have nothing to say.
Yes, you do. Because aren't we on some kind of social media as well?
Yeah, we are. We are on Facebook, and we are on Twitter, and we are on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Excellent.
Now you got to get on Slack.
And
we are on Slack.
Yeah, we are on Slack.
The podcast isn't on Slack, but the company is.
That's a good idea. Maybe we should create a public AT Banter Slack channel.
AT Banter Slack channel. That's not a bad idea.
Alrighty.
Damn.
Start working on that, Rob.
Beth needs. We need to fire Ryan and hire Beth.
I'm done.
Wait, no, wait. I take it back. It's all his stuff. All the mics and stuff.
My last day.
No, I don't know anything about Slack, so you can do that, Ryan. You're good.
Oh, well, all right.
Listen, Beth, we want to thank you so much for joining us. It was an absolute delight having you with us, and let's do this again.
Well, thank you. I sure enjoyed it.
All right. Well, everybody, that's going to about do it for us this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening in. Thanks again to Beth, and we'll see everybody next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canasstech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com, or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840, or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.